All right, welcome everyone to our brand new webinar series. This is the first of many to come. This is WooCommerce extensions you need to take your fashion or apparel store or your client stores to the next level. So I'd like to welcome you. I'm your host today. My name's Sam. I'm a senior marketer here at GoDaddy. That's my picture. You can see Microsoft suggested a person wearing glasses as the caption. So that is what they think of me. But, you know, I will do my best to offer insight beyond that which a mere generic person wearing glasses could. So here's what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to start off with just a real quick overview of trends in the fashion and apparel e-commerce space. And the trends are all moving in a great direction. So glad you're here for this webinar because this is a good space to be in. After that, we're going to cover a bunch of great WooCommerce extensions you can use for fashion apparel stores. We'll get into why they're useful, how to implement them in your store. And after that, we're going to do a question and answer session where you can feel free to ask us anything about what we've covered in the webinar or beyond. So, excuse me. Let me introduce you to our expert today. You may know her. Her name is Tabitha Turton. She comes to us from Montreal, Quebec right now. She lives on different sides of Canada at different times of the year and picked Montreal for winter. So Tabitha is here. She's a product manager at GoDaddy, and she is going to be giving us fantastic insight. Tabitha, how many thousands of e-commerce stores would you say you have personally helped one-on-one at this point?
Oh my gosh. Dozens of thousands?
Dozens of thousands. So I could not have a better panelist and expert here to join us today. Let's get into some stats about fashion apparel stores. First of all, the market of fashion. The reason that we decided to do this as our first webinar here is that it is the largest business-to-consumer e-commerce market segment with an estimated market size of $525 billion worldwide. That's US dollars, projected to hit $1 trillion or more than $1 trillion by 2025, which sounds very far away, but it's really kind of soon. So the market is skyrocketing, and e-commerce is now up to 38.6% of US apparel sales as of 2019, and that continues to grow as we're going to get into in the rest of these stats. You can see people who shop for clothing and apparel online spend a lot of money, an average of $432 revenue per user, which is a very high number. Within just 3 years' time, projected to be another $100 per person per year in fashion and apparel spending online. So that is a tremendous market to go after. And finally, obviously, last year was different. No one knew how different sectors were going to be affected when the global pandemic hit. So e-commerce apparel sales still did well. People shifted what they were buying. They stopped buying formal dress clothes like these fancy duds I pulled out of my closet for the first time in a year today. People bought sweatpants and sweatshirts, more comfort apparel, more practical apparel. So as you can see here, the fashion apparel industry and the market in the US was up 8.6% from the previous year. That was entirely driven by e-commerce. There was such a drop in in-person shopping that e-commerce had to make up the entire difference and gave the category a 1.9% year-over-year growth after all things considered. So very impressive there. We'll now get into the meat of this, which is we're going to cover some of the extensions you need for your WooCommerce store in order to maximize this fashion and apparel market. Now, obviously, WooCommerce itself comes with a lot of great functionality in its core, but we're going to cover specific extensions that will help you. We're also going to give some general e-commerce advice here for fashion and apparel stores, and frankly, all stores, but that's going to be our narrow focus today. So we're going to go through quite a few extensions. We're going to go through them pretty quickly, and don't worry, this will all be available afterwards. So the first one we're going to get into is WooCommerce 360-degree image. And I apologize, as we learned in our rehearsal for this, I cannot stop the shoe from spinning as we present. So please do not be hypnotized by the spinning high-heeled sort of strappy sandal shoe. I don't know shoes very well. I worked in a shoe store when I was 15. I don't know shoes very well. So what WooCommerce 360-degree image does for you is quite simply, you can add image rotation to your product pages. And Tabitha, if you could explain why that's helpful for fashion apparel stores and in general, why this is a really useful plugin.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're in the store and you see something that you like, your immediate go-to is to pick it up, turn it around, look at it from different angles, look at its details, maybe the stitching. Something like this plugin really helps recreate or mimic that in-store experience. So you're able to have a better idea of what it really looks like and see it from different angles. And that's really useful because we want to reduce returns, right? Returns account for well, they're just super tedious to deal with as a merchant. They add extra effort and work to being able to process the shipping, the processing, and whatnot. And then you're potentially losing that sale ultimately. So by being able to reduce returns by 50%, which this plugin has been shown to do, you're really saving that headache for yourself. It also helps increase conversions by 13%, which is really impressive. And that's because of that experience where you're able to really recreate what it would be like in the store when you're looking at various items. So it's a really fantastic plugin to start with.
Yeah, I think just as e-commerce merchants, our goal is always to close that tactile gap. And this is one of the ways that we can go about doing that. As you can see here, that's the top reason the customers still go in store, is they actually want to see and touch and feel and smell something. And at least while we can never replicate any of those things one-to-one, this is the best way. All right, this is what it would be like if I held it in my hand and spun it around.
Yeah.
Next one we're going to talk about, WooCommerce additional variation images. So this is a pretty simple plugin, but basically if you're offering multiple variations of a product and you're using multiple images for each of those variations, this allows you to, when a customer switches to a different variation, it will show them a variety of images of that new variation instead of just one, which would be the default behavior. Right, Tabitha?
Right. Yeah. And so this is super helpful for being able to then select, that black image, that black t-shirt color, and then have a bunch of different images where you can see it from the front, the back, perhaps with the model wearing it. And this is really useful because the majority of your customers, about 3/4, rely on product photos. And again, it's helping reduce those returns because about nearly 1/4 of returns are based on the product looking different than it did online. So if you can recreate that experience and provide as many images as possible to the customer upfront so that they're certain that what they're looking at is what they really want, then you're likely to have a successful shopping experience there where the customer is happy and is wearing their new awesome item.
Absolutely. And one quick note before we move on. I just want to let everyone know, I didn't mention this up top, but I've turned on the Q&A. Feel free to to ask questions at any point. We're going to address them at the end, but if a question comes into mind, go ahead and drop it in right now. You should be able to see it in the chat window. You can put in a question. And we'll hit all those at the end of this. So that's great. Let's move on to the next extension, which is Product Reviews Pro. So WooCommerce Product Reviews Pro is a plugin I absolutely love. It allows you to add professional level reviews like the ones you'd see at the biggest e-commerce stores in the world to your site. So WooCommerce does come with core functionality for reviews. And the reviews it's pretty good. And you should implement those right away, no matter what, because as we'll get into, reviews are really important. But if you want to extend those reviews, and Tabitha will talk about or at least some of the things you can do with Product Reviews Pro to extend those reviews, you're going to want a plugin like this. So go ahead, Tabitha.
Yeah, so I think we have an example here, and it's really beautiful. Well done. I think it's even an improvement over some of the big box store examples that I've seen out in the wild, because it's really great to be able to collect or capture images from your customers. So you can see here, this is an example that people have been able to submit their own images. So you can see how it hangs on the body. You can also see it in different light, because that can be really important to understand, okay, what sort of color it is. Is it like a bluer red or an orangey red? And then you can see here from the example that people are able to submit the sizes that they typically wear, and then the fit, which is so important. I know that I was really slow to start shopping online for shoes, because I was always concerned that I'd have to return them. And this past winter, I needed to get boots for -20-degree weather, because Canada. And so I was really concerned. First, it was the struggle of getting boots that would actually fit the season. but then the fit itself. And so it was so helpful to see where people were like, yeah, this is true to fit. And I didn't have to size up or down. So being able to create that experience on your own site can be really helpful because, first of all, 70% of customers are looking at reviews before they purchase. So they're not, they want to see what you have up there. And they're also then more likely to make a purchase if you have those ratings and reviews there. And again, it ties back to what we were looking at with returns. If you can provide a really helpful review system so that people can check the fit, especially with fashion and apparel, then you're less likely to see those returns occur.
And one of the great things with Product Reviews Pro is you can ask prompting questions for reviews. So you can actually say in every review, please tell us how this fits. And again, I've come to really start relying on customer provided images when I shop now, because product photos are idealized. They're the best view of a product. A customer photo really shows you what it's like in the wild. So being able to have those on your site is, I think it's becoming a really valuable shopping tool that I assume I'm not the only person leaning on, because I'm seeing that starting to happen more and more. And like everything Tabitha said, great for fashion stores when, sizing is just imaginary and varies from store to store and product to product. So it's really helpful to get feedback from a critical mass of people on exactly how things fit.
Yeah.
So the next product showcasing a plugin we're going to talk about is WooCommerce Quick View. So quite a simple one. You click on a product, a light box comes up with the key product details and, of course, the ability to purchase. So Tabitha, if you'd like to get into Quick View.
Right. Yeah. So it's really straightforward, right? There are it does one thing really, really well, which is providing just that quick experience for your customer, which is similar to like when you're in the store and you quickly pull something off the rack and then put it back in, right? So you're not having to examine it closely. You're just trying to figure out, is this something that matches what I'm looking for? And with this, you're able to then just look at some of the highlights of the item before deciding whether or not to go to the product page itself. And it really accomplishes a couple things. It makes sure that people don't have to click through a whole bunch of times to get to just see a few details. But it also it manages like response times, right? Like, so speed is so critical when you have shoppers on your site. And if they have to load the product page separately, just to get an idea of whether or not this item is of interest, they're probably going to tire of that whole process after a while. Whereas with this quick view, it's just one simple click. They can see some details and then move on, decide whether or not to open the additional page, and then deal with that loading period.
And Tabitha, did you appreciate that I used a Canada curling shirt in our example here?
Yes, I did. It's so neat.
Match the presentation to the presenter is what I always say. All right, our next extension we're going to talk about is WooCommerce nested category layout. So this is another one. It's a simple one function extension, but one that you may find extremely valuable. You see, I've categorized this as catalog management, and that's going to be something that we're going to talk about quite a bit here, because catalog management, especially with apparel stores that can have such large catalogs, becomes a really important issue to deal with. So this simply allows you to group your products by category and subcategory a little better as you're displaying them on your pages. Just makes it a little easier for navigation. Tabitha will get into some of the benefits of this.
Yeah, and like you made a good point, especially with fashion and apparel, because there are so many categories or collections that you're managing. Like, and we're not even talking about variables here, just when it comes to clothing. So we have a pretty simple setup here where it's clothing, and then we've got these subcategories below. But some stores choose to separate by tops. And then you'll have all of the top subcategories in there, and same with bottoms. So then you'll have like slacks or shorts or whatnot. And it really can be a bear of an experience if you're having to just scan through the entire catalog without this categorization. It ends up being too much effort. So to just streamline it and simplify it for your customers. And to create that improved experience is really best to break it into as many categories that make sense as possible. So like if I'm looking for a hoodie, I don't want to have to scroll through all of the various tops that are provided by the store. If I can go directly to that section, then that's perfect. It makes it much easier to find what I'm looking for. And that's really important, since this is then addressing the two top complaints about e-commerce sites. We want to make sure that sites aren't too slow, like we mentioned before, and then also that it's not too hard to find what you're looking for. And this just does it really elegantly.
Absolutely. All right. The next one we're going to talk about is sort of related to that one. And this is WooCommerce Brands, another way to organize your catalog and help your customers get to what they're looking for fast. So WooCommerce Brands allows you to create different brands. As you see here, I picked out some of the shoe brands that I was more comfortable with, because these are ones that I sold when I was 15 years old selling shoes. And you can assign products to those brands, and then you can create lists of those brands. You can put them in widgets. You can put it anywhere to allow customers to search by brand. So Tabitha, if you'd like to get into this one.
So that makes sense why you weren't so comfortable with the heel.
Correct.
No heels involved here.
I worked at a sporting goods store, and I was horrible at it, but just horrible.
So not going on your resume.
No, that one didn't make it.
Yeah. So, well, with this plugin, as you mentioned, like it's great for creating different brand sections. Like here we have an instance where we've got the brands category. And so folks can then click through to look at the catalog by the brand. So if I wanted to view all of the Vans shoes that were in the store, I could just click that Vans logo and be able to see everything. It also helps you add the brand thumbnail to individual product pages, which is really neat. So that can help call out and just make the brand more recognizable. So some shoppers are sensitive to, they want to buy specific brands for specific things. So if they see that brand mark there, they're more likely to proceed with the purchase and just have greater confidence in what they're buying.
Yeah, it's a good little quick extension that can make a big difference, actually, in a lot of customer use cases. So another catalog management, and this gets into real hardcore management. So this is product CSV import suite. So what you can do with this is you can create and update your product catalogs by importing them as CSVs. And Tabitha will get into why many people would want to do that.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, the last thing that you want to do is manage or update products one by one, especially if you have multiple updates to make. So with this, you're able to just do it through a CSV import and update like thousands of products at one time, which I can't even imagine having to do that individually. And it's just, as a merchant, product management and catalog management is one of the most time-consuming aspects in your role too, like at least when you're dealing with like back-end stuff. So whatever tools you can find to help take some of the load off of your day-to-day is really crucial to free up like for business strategy and marketing and other important tasks in your role. So with this, what's really cool with this plugin is that it does work with other extensions. It works with that WooCommerce Brands extension that we just looked at, and then it also works with the Google product feed, product vendors, and a bunch of other ones. And it will just make your life much easier to quickly import a lot of data and update it.
Absolutely. Importing and exporting so much faster than trying to click through and update. Yes, again, with a large catalog, it's not just difficult, it would probably be an impossible task to update everything individually once you're dealing with a certain level of scale. And on that note, WooCommerce bulk stock management. So this is if you're monitoring your stock levels on WooCommerce, you can bulk manage them here. And you can also have, just to help you out, you can print out a stock report through WooCommerce for your store, so you can get kind of an overview of how things have sold for a day for any period of time and where your stock levels are at.
Yeah, and this can be really helpful for reducing customer frustration. I know I've I've had that happen to me where I place an order and it goes through no problem, and then I receive an email later in the day telling me that the item was on back order. Like, it's not the end of the world, of course, and everything worked out in the end. But it's really great to be able to have that transparency and accuracy up front, so that you can also start developing a level of trust with your customers too, so that they know that the information that you share on the front of the site is really accurate. It also helps like boost that sense of urgency and scarcity. So let's say that there are 3 items that are showing as available. That way, if I were to see that it's something I really want, I'd be more inclined to quickly place my order, because I know that it's running low and I want to make sure I get it before it's completely out of stock.
Yeah, I find that credible stock levels on e-commerce sites are very convincing for me. If the store has the credibility and shows how many are left, and you see that number moving and you see it moving on other products, so you believe that when they say there's 3 left, that really means there are 3 left. It definitely increases scarcity for me, and then that ups urgency, and that can trigger a purchase. So that is, it's, if you want to start incorporating stock levels into your site, it can be a real sales tool for you. And this just helps you keep it organized and make sure everything's accurate and you're on top of everything. We're going to move into our upselling and cross-selling plugins. I listed them as upselling and cross-selling, but to be mavericks, we're going to start with the cross-selling plugin. So the first one we're going to talk about is cart add-ons, which is, you've seen it when you're shopping. We've all seen it. We've all probably bought from it. That's where you display related products to the items that are in a customer's cart, generally less expensive items that match well with what they're purchasing, and you allow them the opportunity to add them. Here, you're offering them that cross-sell opportunity rather in the cart. So, Tabitha, if you'd like to get into this one.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, we've all seen them, and considering that they lead to like 30% of all e-commerce sales, that just kind of reinforces they're there, and this is why we also purchase. It's really a great idea for fashion and apparel stores to add these cart add-ons, simply because you're doing your customer service in a way of reminding them of items that would naturally complement what they have already added to their cart. So it could be accessories. Let's say if they've purchased some jeans or slacks or something, you could suggest belts, anything that would be an accessory to go along with the item. If they're ordering big coats or like winter boots, like I've been, then what about like winter accessories, hats, scarf, gloves, that sort of thing. It's kind of like, the impulse areas that you'll see with scattered throughout a store, where you have just like, kind of these, sometimes they call them guilt goods, but or like guilty, like, where you're kind of guilted into it. But I like impulse more, and they're really targeted. What's nice with this is that the benefit of being online, we have all this data. And so we're letting the robots do the work for us, where we can actually target these impulse goods based on what they've already shown to have an interest in. So it's not just random stuff. It's actually like, oh, okay, you were interested in like hoodies, so we're going to recommend these, I don't know what kids wear with hoodies anymore. I'm too old to stay on top of that.
Do they still wear? Yeah. Chain wallets, studded belts. Right. I went to the Horde tour once for like 15 minutes. Yeah. So that's, I think that with, this is really good. I didn't put it on the slide, but there's a shopping rule called the 60-60 rule, which says that roughly 60% of your customers will buy something about 60% of the time at about 60% of the price. So that when it comes to accessorizing or cross sells. So you want to sell less expensive items, but ones that are quite complementary to the product as cross sells. And you should actually be able to get pretty good numbers if you're targeting these right. And with cart add-ons, you can really target down which items are being offered with which products. So to help refine that. So now we'll move on to our upselling plugin, which is checkout add-ons. So Tabitha, if you'd like to explain the difference and what we can do with checkout add-ons.
Right. So this is an opportunity to upsell. So we're tacking on a new purchase, right? And well, like we're improving the purchase. So you can add paid or free add-ons. So let's say if they want to add gift wrapping or like some sort of gift card to the order, then that would be considered an upsell because we're just tacking on a little additional fee. You could also include delivery insurance like we see here in the example, or even like a little tip for the folks in the store making the magic happen.
And so it's a bold move. I don't know that I've seen it work, but worst thing is I say no.
Right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen fashion and apparel. I definitely have seen it like in food. Yeah, makes sense, definitely. Yeah. Like the local delivery places, they have an option there.
Right. Makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah. But maybe go for the bold move. Let's see.
Well, I mean, if your products are made by artists or something, you might want to, someone might want to tip the artist, like for fashion apparel products. That could be one place where it could be relevant.
Yeah, for sure. And
or if you're hand knitting something, I don't know. There are cases.
Oh yeah, like with knitwear for sure. Yeah, that could work quite well, right? Especially if you're like supporting local artists, like maybe a collective or something.
Right.
Yeah. And why it's useful is because it works. 4% of customers will buy an upsell. So why not have that as an option there? And that's really also why you see like those impulse sections right at the checkout too. Like, and they those are more cross-selling because it's like gum and chocolate bars or whatnot. But it's a similar sort of motivation here.
Yeah, and I know I will. If I'm buying a gift and gift wrapping is an option, I will usually buy it because even though I'm not as terrible at gift wrapping as I would assumed I was when I first started trying to wrap gifts, but I'm actually not. But the time saving, it's just worth it for it to come nicely wrapped. Like that is a great add-on to during the holidays, but even now in the depths of March, it's still a good service to offer. You never know, birthdays happen all year long, and or as I've learned with my 5-year-old, we celebrate half birthdays now. So you got to wrap gifts for that too. All right, we're going to move on now to some extensions that we use for checking out. And we're going to start with one of my absolute favorite ones, which is WooCommerce Social Login. So this, again, something that you're seeing on more and more sites and that I've taken to adopting as I use on more and more sites, which is you can allow your customers to log into your site, both to create an account and to log into your site by linking their Facebook, Amazon, Google, PayPal, quite a few social accounts. We're covering, virtually all users out there will have one of the social accounts that we've included here. So Tabitha, if you want to get into the benefits of WooCommerce Social Login, it'd be great.
Yeah. And like you said, we all have socials now. And so if you can at least offer a selection, you're going to see that that your customers are going to use one of the ones there, right? It turns out that 77% of customers prefer to using social login. I definitely use it like you do, Sam, because it is so much easier to just manage. Even I don't have to think about having different passwords or like which email address did I use for this store versus that one. It eliminates the top reason for cart abandonment, or one of the top reasons. So there are a few, and this is really specifically geared for that customers don't want to have to create an account to place an order. That is a major friction point. So if you can just create like a one-click option which means that they can still return and make repeat purchases, and they're not just like they're not doing a guest checkout. It's a much more improved experience for them, and you're likely to see them returning again and again.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting if you dig into the documentation on this, how it works, but it's essentially linking a social profile to either creating a WordPress profile on the site or linking it to an already existing one. It does it really intelligently to make sure that that you're matching up customers with the right profile so they can log in, create an account easily, log back in easily, and continue to log back in easily using either the social checkout or an account on your site. So just a really smart plugin all around and really useful one to have. the next one we're going to get into more checkout. Now we're going to get into the payment gateways. So payment gateways are ways to accept, lots of ways to accept payments, right? You can accept major credit cards, e-checks, and more. I've spotlighted 9 payment gateways here. 9 very popular ones. Authorize.net, obviously a big one. Chase, Intuit, they're all here. And Tabitha, would you like to get into the benefits of using payment gateways on your site?
Well, I would say that if you go away from this presentation today and are like, okay, what's the first plugin I should install? It should be one of these. So you want to make sure that you're offering payment options for your customers, right? And if you can offer multiple options, that's even better, because you, similar to logging in, we're looking for different ways that fit our needs best as a customer when it comes to making a purchase online. So it's interesting to note here with this stat, this was like from a regular, like sort of sales, gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking, report. There we go. That 6% of customers are you can lose 6% of customers due to missing a payment option that works for them. So you want to take a look at, like, what are your competitors doing? Who are they offering at checkout? How can people pay? Also take a look at the stores that are not necessarily a competitor, but are serving the same like geo as you are, to see like which payment providers are most commonly used or most popular too. So it doesn't need to be another fashion and apparel store. It could just be like in your area, or where your customers are going to be located, because so many of us are now doing like international sales. So it's really looking at like the geolocation and seeing what works best there.
Yeah, I think that's where payment gateways really come in. You know, you probably know the ones in your market, but you know, as you start shipping elsewhere, or, you know, I know that we have a lot of people who use drop shipping, and those products can be come from different places, created in different places, makes it easier to sell globally. But then you also need to make sure that your payment offerings match globally. So really valuable. And yes, you need, basically, you can't have a store if customers have no way to pay you. So you need to have payment gateways. Right? I mean, that's very fundamental. Yeah. And you know, the 1B to payment gateways 1A is shipping methods. Obviously, fashion and apparel stores, we are not dealing with digital goods here, unless you're selling like Minecraft shirts, but I don't know that counts as like apparel, you know, like, or, right. But basically you're going to be shipping stuff. And so shipping methods allow you to integrate with top shipping providers, get real-time shipping rates on your site. And so you know what customers need to pay to ship, and you know what it's going to cost you to ship. So Tabitha, if you'd like to get into the shipping methods.
Yeah, like you said, this is, if you go away today and then you're like, okay, I've got my payment method, what's the second most important plugin to install? It's a shipping method. So it should be following, and like you need both if you want to be able to do business. I was thinking maybe if fashion breaks into like non-fungible tokens, so like maybe there's a you wouldn't need shipping for that in the future. But yeah, in general, you're going to want to ensure that you have the providers that are going to serve your customers, and also provide options. So if you can not limit to one, that would be best. So in the States, you're typically going to offer USPS, UPS, FedEx, perhaps Purelator as well. In Canada, you'd be looking at Canada Post, and then typical UPS and FedEx and whatnot. But it should really be for the area that you're shipping. And that way you can also provide those real-time shipping rates for your customers. We had the metric here, 86% of customers want like the ability to choose various shipping speeds and options. And I know, having moved quite a bit from coast to coast, it makes a difference too. Like certain providers work better in certain areas. So like I used to have a really negative experience with one shipping provider at West, whereas now here they're like the best of the bunch. So if I can have the option to choose, I much prefer it over being stuck with just one solution.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that's relevant all throughout. One of the things we see a lot of stores doing is you can offer a free shipping option for the slowest shipping, but then offer multiple options for faster shipping, just to meet, then you're really checking all the boxes that customers look for. Some want free shipping and don't care about the time. Some want that thing today or need it today. I mean, we've all had that thing where you have to order in this category, specifically fashion apparel, because you need it for, a wedding you're going to this week in the upcoming weekend. And then you'll pay for that overnight shipping. It's good to offer that and show what the real-time rate is, because those rates, some rates you might be able to estimate. Those rates you can't always estimate. Like those rates are all over the place and can really add up on people. So it's good to have those.
And mentioning that, like you want, as a customer, customers want to see that upfront too. So they want to know what the total or like the order total is going to be. They don't want to be surprised with like an additional fee after they've placed the order.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of our go-to cart abandonment. I think that's the number one cart abandonment reason, is the surprise fees. So
exactly.
Our next shipping plugin we're going to talk about is another one that your customers want and look for, and at this point borderline expect, which is shipping tracking. So this is a plugin that gives your customers a very easy way to track their orders, and you can put automatic built-in links for the major shipping providers into the transactional emails you send to your customers. Tabitha, you'd like to get into this one?
Right. I feel like that 97% might just be a margin of error. It's probably just 100% of customers. Right. They expect to be able to monitor shipments, especially at this point, because we've all gotten used to the cadence, right? When you place an order, you receive the order confirmation email. And then once your package has been shipped, it might be a portion of the order or the entire order, you expect to then receive an update with that tracking information. And I think just everyone wants that. You don't want to be in the dark. You want to know when it's going to arrive. And it's possible. I wonder if it's something that became more of a standard based on perhaps Amazon's reach, because they've done such a great job of keeping their customers informed and even giving you upfront delivery dates before you've even added something to your cart. You can have an idea of when you might receive it. So with this, receiving the tracking info, it can really help reduce those support inquiries that you might receive, because they don't know. if you don't have tracking, right, you don't know what's going on, and it can help reduce the effort for you or your team. And what's also really interesting, and this it involves all transactional emails, but specifically for order tracking emails, they do have some of the highest open rates and revenue per email, which you can tap into. If you want to add then a few cross sells within that email, that can then lead to repeat purchases.
Right. Just be careful with those, of course, because those you definitely want to check with the local jurisdictional rules on adding any marketing to your transactional emails. But for instance, in the US, again, where this is not official legal advice, but in general, the US is usually okay with adding a couple of cross sells if you're to an email, but check with your lawyers, of course. However, even if you don't, and you just have your store logo on there, people are still clicking through to your site from here. And when they get to their tracking page, there could also be cross sells and information there too. So this is just a way to bring people back to your site where they can shop. And since they're all going to click through this email, I know I click on pretty much every tracking email I ever get. So people just want to know where their stuff is. It's part of the ritual of shopping online at this point. Moving on, another shipping thing. This is going to help you on your end quite a bit. I pulled the famous WooCommerce using store Hermes Paris, and they are doing WooCommerce print invoices and packing lists. So here is handle invoices, packing lists, pick lists, and you can bulk print these. These are good for throwing into your shipments, but as well for your fulfillment management, which can get really complex on you. So this can be helpful on both ends of that. Tabitha, you'd like to get into this one?
Yeah, so this really helps reduce human error when you're going through picking the items to prepare the shipment. Sometimes the wrong item or wrong variation could wind up in that shipment, and which means that it's going to end up being returned. And in general, we see about 30% return rate just in e-commerce, but for fashion and apparel, that's closer to 40%. So whatever we can do to reduce that, we should put into place. So something like this, if you are preparing, if you are handling all of the shipments yourself, this is a really useful tool to make sure that that human error isn't creeping in, that you've got a checklist that you can just kind of check off. You can even provide more information within the order itself for your customer, which is also useful on their end, just to confirm, yes, this is what you did order. So these are the items that you should be expecting. So it can be just useful all around.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're dealing with fashion apparel stores, returns are part of it. People will buy things, try them on, not like how they fit. That's another part of that gap between in-person shopping and e-commerce that we're just not able to bridge yet. And so what we're trying to do is any place where we could reduce the chance of returns, let's do our best to reduce the chance of returns. And so by printing out, automatic pick lists, you reduce the chance of putting the wrong thing in the box you ship to them. By printing out the invoice, you show them what they ordered. Every little step we could do to reduce returns for fashion and apparel category stores, that's going to be valuable because taking that number down is always a good thing. All right, we're moving on to our customer nurturing section. So we're going to talk about Automate Woo, which is one of the WooCommerce, which is made by Automatic for WooCommerce, but also email marketing automations on the whole. Tabitha and I both have email marketing in our blood and in our backgrounds, and we're both big advocates of it. So we definitely want to give some attention to the incredible value of automations for fashion and apparel stores here with Automate Woo or your email marketing plugin of choice, whatever you're using for your store. You can send automated emails to customers, including abandoned cart emails, winbacks, review requests, and more. So Tabitha, if you'd like to get into email marketing automation and if you want to specifically Automate Woo and what it can do.
Yeah. Gosh, like you said, I think we're both very passionate about email marketing because it's such an effective tool for generating more revenue for your store and just keeping your customers engaged, developing that relationship over time with them and getting them back to looking at like new items that you've added or just making that third or fourth purchase with you. It's also a way of like placing you as a leader and expert within your niche too. So there are informational aspects, but when it comes to automations, we're typically dealing with either something that is just pre-purchase, so like an abandoned cart email where they've added something to their cart and then they abandoned it. Or something post-purchase like the winbacks, review requests. You could reward VIP customers. It's really an endless list. Once you've got their information and their order history, you can do a lot of things with that, both within Automate Woo and on other platforms. And this is really useful because automations are so effective. They're much more effective than a one-time email, what we typically call a broadcast, so something like a newsletter or a sale announcement, product announcement. The engagement rate, so that open and click rate, is typically 3 times more than a broadcast. And you also are more likely to generate more revenue with an automation. It's typically around 20 times the amount that you would see then with a broadcast. And if we think about like the abandoned cart email, a typical like series sequence like of reminders can lead to between a 10 and 12% recovery rate. I've seen it go much higher than that after really working on tweaking it and making sure it's a highly performant automation. You can get up to more than 20% recovery rate with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, automations are what we always would say. The first emails you set up, they're not necessarily the thing people think of first when they think of email marketing. That's what they think of the sales emails, but these are the most effective ones, and we've seen it over and over, and for fashion stores and beyond. So the next one we're going to get into for customer nurturing is WooCommerce points and rewards. So this is a system that you can use to set up a loyalty point system. Your customers can earn points for buying things, or you can set it up for them doing other behaviors on your site, like leaving a review. And then eventually they can cash in those loyalty points. For discounts, you set all the rates, what the conversion rates between points and discounts. You set up how many points each product is worth. and how they can use them. So it's a really customizable solution to offer some rewards to your customers and to your longtime customers to keep them coming back and buying more. So Tabitha, if you'd like to get into this extension as well as just the concept and the benefit of offering a loyalty program to customers.
Yeah. And I know that personally, my wallet can attest to the popularity of reward and loyalty programs. I think the bulk of my cards in my wallet are all various programs with local stores, and that have like an online option as well. And we've seen that now 61% of customers want to be rewarded for loyalty, and with that, it leads into repeat purchases, right? So you're building up your points so that you can get some sort of benefit once you reach, the options. So here we have an example of using 100 points to get £1 off, but you might want to increase that. Well, typically you're going to offer various tiers, right? And so 1,000 points, they're going to get 10 or 12 maybe, and sweeten it so that the more points that they earn, the greater the reward. So you're increasing not only their repeat purchases, but also lifetime spend. So they're coming back and spending more and more. And what's interesting when it comes to fashion and apparel is that 83% of shopping is really repeat purchases. So whatever we can do to promote those customers to return to your store is going to be an effective approach for just increasing your bottom line.
And we've always pushed people toward points and rewards. It's a good way. And also people like to use a discount when they've earned the discount. It feels different than just offering a discount. That's always a good thing. And finally, we're moving on to our final two extensions, which are our wild card extensions. I did not know exactly where else to put these, but these are also ones that I think are really good for fashion and apparel stores. And so first one we're going to talk about is WooCommerce Pre-Orders. So this is basically, rather than going to, say, a Kickstarter or one of those, you can do a pre-order on your own site. You can introduce a product, have people pre-order it, and then when the product is ready, you can manually or automatically fill it. So you can, bring in some revenue beforehand to help you produce it. You can gauge interest in an item and see if, before you go through the cost of manufacturing and everything associated with that, if it's even worth it, if there's even interest. Really interesting option, especially if you have a loyal fan base who likes what you're doing. Just a great way to introduce new products. Tabitha, what do you think of WooCommerce Pre-Orders?
Yeah, well, you kind of checked off all the highlights there.
Sorry, I got too excited. I've been
right.
Sorry. Yes, really went through the whole thing.
But what's cool is like a lot of niche labels have started using this, and they've decided to skip Fashion Week altogether and instead be focus on pre-orders or made-to-order options online, so that they can really base the run on the demand that they've received. And that helps eliminate like overproduction, eliminates a bunch of costs on the back end. And also gauges just interest, so they can see, are these the items that we designed? Are they going to be popular with our customer base? So it's a really cool new approach. It's picking up steam. Like, we're used to pre-orders being a thing within the tech sort of space, but especially with COVID and that like the different various fashion events have needed to be canceled or are moving into different spaces, this is picking up as like a really viable alternative to doing those events, and just keeping costs low too in like uncertain times.
Yeah. All right. See, there was still plenty. I didn't cover all of it, right?
Right.
All right. And now finally, our last extension that we're going to cover in the main portion of this, which is WooCommerce Google Analytics Pro. So you're probably using some sort of analytics for your site. Probably, there's a good chance based on the numbers that it's Google Analytics. It's the I believe, the most popular analytics option. And with Google Analytics Pro, you can extend what Google Analytics can do to add a bunch of advanced e-commerce features. So you can see things like average order value, conversion rate, sales by product. You can actually see in your checkout flow where people are dropping out, so much more. Just a way to get way more looks at all of the analytics about your store. And Tabitha will get into why that is so important.
Right. Yeah. Metrics matter. So knowing the numbers, being able to have a baseline, being able to identify any trends, this is really crucial as a business owner to then develop your own, to make business decisions and strategy decisions. So what's really cool is that with this add-on, you're enhancing what's already there within Google Analytics and making it really useful, specifically for e-commerce. I know that Google, they've improved some of their e-com functionality over time, but something like this plugin takes it a step further. So I would say that if you've been in this space for a while, you've already you've got your payment method and your shipping method installed. This is something that you want to then look at down the line once you're ready to really start crunching the numbers and seeing how you can improve upon the current customer experience and improve those or build further with those customer relationships.
Right. The best way to know if tests and changes to your store are both needed, and then once you make them, if they're effective, is to have numbers. There's always going to be an element of gut instinct involved, but the more you can back things up with numbers, the more you can really see if your hypotheses are working and if where there's room to extend your store, because there's always going to be some place where everyone can optimize, and you can find that through numbers like the ones you'd get in Google Analytics Pro. So with that, we're going to move on. Sorry, we got too excited, to our Q&A. And so we do have one question here. Anyone who else has questions can go ahead and drop them in the Q&A in the next few minutes. We also had a few, we reached out to some people to submit questions in advance, and we'll cover a couple of those. We have about 9 minutes left in this webinar. So the first one we got from Richard, who asked us, can you compare Automate Woo to Jilt? Which is better? Are they redundant? So for those who don't know, if you're on this webinar, you don't know, Jilt is an email marketing platform. Obviously, it was one that we worked on heavily, and we continue to work on heavily. And there's a number of third-party email plugins as well. Email platforms as well, like your Klaviyo's and your MailChimps. And so Tabitha, if you could explain sort of the difference between Automate Woo and those third-party email marketing platforms like Jilt and Klaviyo and MailChimp, and are they redundant? And what can you do? And what can you do with Automate Woo that you can't do with those? And which would you recommend?
Right. Well, I think the main thing with Automate Woo is that you are relying on your own email server. So like you're scheduling emails within the WooCommerce platform itself, as opposed to relying on a third-party service like Jilt or other platforms like Klaviyo that are then handling the outgoing emails separately for you. So there is a level of control there with Automate Woo, and it is built into managing it within the space of your WooCommerce backend, versus then using another app like Jilt, where you're then logging in to a separate account and managing there. There are definitely benefits. Like I'm, of course, a huge Jilt fan, and so and we've worked on some really great features with the platform. So there can be some trade-offs. So it's really looking at like the types of emails that you want to send. Automate Woo really does cover the gamut for e-commerce. So it can be really useful for engaging with your customers, post-purchase, or even like with the recovery emails as well.
Yeah, and Automate Woo also does have a few that you don't see in a lot of the other platforms. Like they have a pretty big focus on like anniversary-driven emails, whether that's someone's birthday or the anniversary of their first purchase. Those are automations you don't see across a lot of the other email marketing platforms. So that's always a good benefit for Automate Woo. But in general, I think you find the solution that works for you. What I do like when I use Automate Woo is like Tabitha said, the fact that you don't have to leave WooCommerce to use it is a really big benefit and something that a lot of people like. But Some people want the more pinpoint control and a little bit more of the extension that you get from the third-party email platform, like Agility or Klaviyo or MailChimp or any of the many email marketing platforms out there. So I think you'll find, you find a solution that works well for you. And I think in general, we see with email marketing, people know when a solution fits their store or when it's time to move on and try something a little, use an amalgamation of multiple systems that are each filling certain needs for them. So that's what I would say on that. And please, and of course, go ahead and reach out to us if you have any more questions about that. We're always happy to talk email marketing. A couple other questions I want to hit before we get done. So Tabitha, one of the questions that I saw come up a lot when I was asking people were people wondering about good themes, WordPress / WooCommerce themes for fashion apparel stores. That's one that comes up quite a bit. Do you have any recommendations on that front?
Right. Well, we do with GoDaddy offer a managed WordPress e-commerce hosting plan and include a number of really gorgeous clothing store themes in that plan. So there's one called Nova, another called Baron, and I believe we have one that's more in like a store category called fashion. So these can be really useful, especially if you're just getting up and running with a new store, to find a theme that is kind of close to the intended design, and then you can just make a few adjustments here or there.
Great. And one other question I want to make sure we hit before we end. A person named Keith asked us in our chat, should I install all of these extensions?
Right.
Because we covered, I think roughly 18 or 19 extensions here, and that's not counting, more than one shipping method or payment gateway. So should someone go and install all of these extensions right now on their store, Tabitha?
Right. I think the rule of thumb, and this is my rule of thumb, is to just install the extension I need when I need it. So if I need to improve the image experience, I would install like the 360-degree plugin and the variable image plugin to help improve that experience. But if I'm not planning on offering pre-orders or made to order, then I wouldn't install that plugin. So it really, look at your needs and what sort of parts of the customer experience you want to improve. And then I would recommend using the plugins that we recommended, but not necessarily all of them, because it becomes just another thing that you need to manage within the back end of your store.
Right. And while these are all, all the plugins we've talked about are premium, well-coded, well-built plugins, there's still, you can slow down a site if you have too many extensions installed. These are well-built ones, so they may not, but in general, like Tabitha said, we recommend keeping your extensions to the ones you need, just for your own sanity and management's sake. And, you never know what might have a little bit of an effect on your site. So better safe than sorry. Although, find the ones in here that work best for you, and I'm sure you will have great success with them. So we will now wrap up with only a few minutes left. So thought we'd cover the fact that we talked about a lot of extensions, and as you may have seen with the prices on them, we talked about a lot of money's worth of extensions here today. The cost here was over $1,300 US, and then another $79 for each additional payment gateway and or each additional shipping method. So we're talking about a significant expense here. So, excuse me. Fortunately, we have some good news, which is, Tabitha and I are at GoDaddy Pro, and we have the managed WordPress Ecommerce hosting package here, and it was just updated to add more than 75 free WooCommerce extensions, including every single one we talked about here of these premium extensions. So for your hosting fee, you will be able to get every single thing we talked about included, and then I think another 50 great extensions beyond that. So this is a really good deal for e-commerce hosting, for managed WooCommerce hosting. So you can, all the benefits of managed hosting that you get, plus all of these extensions for your store. So really great. And we hope you're interested in this. If you are, I put the URL up on the slide, or you can go over to GoDaddy.com and you can navigate over to the hosting packages and pick the WordPress e-commerce hosting package. And you will not be disappointed. So with that, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who attended. We had I'm very happy with how many people attended. It was a great turnout. A lot of people interested in this, and we're so happy that we can provide you something. Huge thanks to Tabitha for lending her expertise on this. So knowledgeable. And yes, you can now even add to your tally of how many dozens of thousands of stores you've helped, because and we're going to be doing more of these for more different types of stores. We're aiming to do about 1 a month of these coming up. So if you're a developer, a designer, an agency who does multiple stores, or you're just interested in the general e-commerce tips that we're providing here, please keep an eye out for many more webinars coming from us. And we look forward to continuing to help you. So thanks again for coming, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.